It's December 9th, which means while you're out there Christmas shopping, holiday shopping, maybe even birthday shopping, it's portal season. And UCLA, they're shopping for a quarterback.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season off with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Again, visit FanDuel.com to get started. And where we get started today, of course, nowhere other than the portal officially being open for business. Now, players have pledged their ideas, their thoughts, their intentions to go to the portal, but now it's officially open, which means everything is official. You're throwing your name in, not your intentions. Still more players. Unexpected will probably go. Some players that we expect to go might not go for UCLA and beyond. And that means Deshaun Foster, who has promised that UCLA is going to go after quarterback and that they have the NIL budget to do so. Now, the question is, with all the coaching staff changes for UCLA, most notably in the offensive coordinator position, going from Eric Bieniemy to Tino Sunseri, where is UCLA going to go? They got a late switch, right? They pivoted from Madden Iamaleava, who switched his commit to Arkansas. They got McDaniel coming in, who is a 3 to 4 star product that has ties to Sunseri, coming as a true freshman. Justin Martin's in the portal. He's the most experienced, more veteran of the UCLA quarterbacks. So what does that mean for UCLA that's got at least quite a few freshman options and sophomore options with 4 years of eligibility coming into this 2025 season? It means UCLA must heavily go into the portal. But the question is, with this relationship with the new UCLA commit and the new offensive coordinator, does that mean UCLA is going to go after somebody with a lot of eligibility, like swing big for a top-tier quarterback, or are they going to go after a rental? Well, I got two options for you. This is where UCLA should go for. I'm going to start with the big swing, the home run swing. Of course, we'll talk about the other top-ranked quarterbacks in segment 2. What I'm thinking UCLA should go after is the California native, Central Coast kid, Darian Mensah. All right. He is a Tulane quarterback, helped lead his team to a conference championship game. He is a redshirt freshman turning into a redshirt sophomore next year, 6'3", 200-pound quarterback. And so far, in his 1 year of playing, he was a guy that doesn't look like he got a lot of offers, not a lot of love coming out. And then you've got the likes of Darian Mensah, who comes in with over 2,000 yards passing, quite a few touchdowns. He led the conference in yards per attempt down the field and led the conference in completion percentage. So that means he was pushing the ball vertically, and he had a decent protection. So he's mobile. He can make some moves while also completing it at a high rate. Now, the difference between a Tulane offense and what UCLA's run in recent years, although now it's a little different trying to figure out what this new scheme will be with the Indiana quarterback coach and a co-offensive coordinator coming in, Mensah was playing in an offensive system that ran the ball more than 60% of the time. So that means play action's available. He had a good pocket, decent time to throw, pretty mobile. Isn't exactly a dual threat like some of the quarterbacks are in the transfer portal rankings. But Mensah is a 4-star transfer portal quarterback and is currently, depending on where you're looking at it, a number 3 quarterback. Has 3 years of eligibility left. I highly doubt he uses all 3 years, although players have been making NIL money, so he might use all that. So if UCLA goes after Mensah, that means at least 3 of these million quarterbacks UCLA has on their roster are leaving elsewhere. But also, since he's a redshirt freshman, it means he is NFL eligible after this season, or the next, of course, which means if anybody committed this year, all they have to do is maybe redshirt 1 year, sit another, and they still have 3 years of eligibility if the Bruins want to go after Mensah. All right, this is what his numbers were officially this year. Over a 60% completion percentage, all right? He threw for 2,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions, 132 yards on the ground, a touchdown overall. Didn't have a long run like Ethan Garbers, but did enough to evade some pressure. and he played in a conference championship game against some tough competition. So he would clearly be a big swing. And I'm reading on 24/7 Sports, what's his comp? What is Mensah's comp? Well, ironically, his comp, apparently to this article, is to that of Curtis Rourke. Well, if UCLA is trying to emulate anything, they're trying to become Indiana in 2025 by bringing in Sunseri, their literal offensive coordinator, giving him a chance to take the reins. And I know he has that connection to a freshman QB, but the Bruins have the money and they have the relationship potential with the West Coast kid. If he wants to come home, play football, he's got a twin sister playing soccer at Oregon, so he's already got familial connections playing collegiately on the West Coast. Maybe that's something, right? Now you're going to have to fight off the NIL budgets of Miami, who's looking for a quarterback after Cam Ward, and so many other schools, right? Maybe USC takes a swing at this kid if they don't like their UNLV transfer in the bowl game. Lots of teams are going to go after somebody like Mensah, and whether it's going to the East Coast and the beach, because let me tell you, he's from San Luis Obispo. That's a beach town. Tulane, hey, tell me about fun near New Orleans Beach, all right? Near the water. Miami, right there. UCLA, Westwood, can't think of a better place to be, all right? Not exactly sure if UCLA is going to go all in on him, but I think that's a big swing for a top 3 get that I think would fit better than a Miller Moss and a Weigman for UCLA. All right. Now they should go take a look at those other 2 guys. But Mensah is somebody who, while he does have some fumbling issues, UCLA is certainly well within the rights to go check out this kid with a quarterback comparison to somebody who was in the top 10 Heisman running for a team that's in the CFP like Indiana. Maybe UCLA can be that team with Mensah, but they'll have to significantly improve their offensive line and see if their running game can help with his passing game, because he didn't throw for over 50% of the plays, just barely over 40%, close to 50%, not even 50%. Now, what I'm thinking is what I read from On3, UCLA is checking in on Kaidon Salter, the former Liberty quarterback. This is a guy that has 1 year of eligibility, 6'1" QB, committed to Tennessee out of high school, was there for spring practice, has now been a Liberty quarterback the last few years, a Texas kid, and he's put up some big numbers this year, maybe not so much with 1,800 yards and 15 touchdowns and 6 picks, but overall on the ground, 587 yards, 7 touchdowns. So a dual threat, didn't throw it as much like Mensah, but can run it a little bit better, and he is that stopgap rental option UCLA could go with, right? Right now, UCLA has at least like 5 quarterbacks on their roster that have at least 4 years of eligibility right now, right? If you include the 2 incoming commits for UCLA this year, if you include all that's left on the roster, UCLA still has Marcus Davis. You've got Henry Hasselback, at least at the moment. You've got Luke Duncan. Nick Billups, I think, still has another year. They have quite a few guys that have lots of eligibility left. And maybe they've left in the portal last day or two or put their names in since, but you get the point. UCLA's got a lot of young quarterbacks, so if they go after Mensah, that's kind of a slap in the face. Hey, we got all these commits. Do you think you're going to play here? You're making walk-on money. There's going to be a roster crunch in UCLA, and all these other schools are only going to give scholarships to legit teams, and the walk-ons are going to get cut because there's going to be roster limits now in all of NCAA sports. There's going to be a lot more of a limit than these 200 players or who can shoot. It's going to be a little different nowadays in college football. And those are going to go to scholarship kids. They're not going to waste it on quarterbacks that don't have time. So maybe if you want these guys to learn the system, which hopefully is 10 times easier to learn compared to the enemy wordy NFL jumbled system, and Sunseri can quickly turn around UCLA into a more than efficient offense. They don't need to be top 10. Any sort of improvement can prove UCLA to be a much better football team in 2025 on the offensive side of the football, while Kaikam Aloy looks to replenish talent lost in the linebacker room and all across his defense. So if Sunseri wants to go over the dual threat option, Kaidon Salter, and I was reading from UCLA, or reading from On3, that they are in on this guy. That doesn't mean they're going to get him. That doesn't mean they have a crystal ball. He's already taken official visits across to other schools, I think some on the East Coast as well. I think Salter might actually be taking a visit to Syracuse pretty soon, but UCLA's in on him. And that, I think, would be a solid 1 year rental of a quarterback for UCLA to get. If you're looking at the quarterback rankings in the transfer portal, I'm looking at the 24/7 Sports. They've got Weigman from Texas A&M, Miller Moss number 2, Mensah's number 3, who I think would be a very good big swing fit for UCLA. Jackson Arnold, who I've talked about a little bit before. And then Salter. Salter sitting there as the 5th best option right now in transfer portal quarterbacks, ironically, just ahead of Justin Martin. So Justin Martin currently sits there as the 6th best option for UCLA in the portal. So those are the 2 top options. One UCLA's checking out. The other one, a big swing UCLA, I think, should throw money at. And if they like Mensah, absolutely should bring him back to the West Coast. Those are 2 guys, I think. Now let's kind of go over some other less likely options, but still home run swings, and some guys that are out there that maybe UCLA should take a page on while they figure out who should be quarterback in 2025. Nothing delivers comfort and joy just like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. Guaranteed perfection with every single bite. And right now, you can have and save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And you can score an extra $30 off with the promo code COLLEGE. 5 generations of experience. They consistently, Omaha Steaks does, deliver the world's best steak experience. And it's a perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages, including gourmet favorites, because you can have a legendary steak or mouth-watering desserts and more. Save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Again, our listeners can also get an extra $30 off the promo code COLLEGE, 50% off at omahasteaks.com, and an extra $30 off with the promo code COLLEGE. Minimal purchase may apply. All right, cruising on here in the second segment for Locked On UCLA. We're talking more transfer portal quarterbacks. All right, so what does UCLA have to go after? Well, let's go after some unlikely looks at the top of the list. All right, you've got Texas A&M quarterback Connor Weigman, 6'3". He's been around for a while, experience from 22 to 25, didn't really thrive in the Mike Elko world at Texas A&M. 4-star QB, was a 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. And now maybe UCLA wants to take a swing at this kid. Maybe his name's out there. I think it's unlikely that they go after this guy who lost his job at Texas A&M, a very good program this year that was fighting for an SEC championship game berth. Now, a unique fit would be Miller Moss, who has been at USC for quite some time. He is a redshirt junior, enrolled at USC in the spring of 21. And all of a sudden found himself, after being the Holiday Bowl offensive MVP, a true starter heading into the season in 2024, losing his job before the UCLA game. He's a redshirt junior that has 1 year of eligibility. So speaking of the stopgap rentals, if UCLA wants a local option that is going to command a lot of money and a lot of respect from other Power 4 schools, then maybe UCLA wants to go after a 6'2" option like Miller Moss. Completed 70% of his passes in 3 parts of his career. This year, though, this is what his stats came out to be: 2,500 yards, 8 touchdowns, and overall 9 interceptions, including 3 at Washington, which was his last game action. All right, his best game, you could argue, was statistically against Maryland, even though they lost. He threw for 68% completion percentage, 336 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. Against Penn State, threw for 220 and 2 touchdowns in near USC upset. Then a lot of yards and 3 touchdowns against Wisconsin, 308 and a touchdown. But easily, 378 and a touchdown against LSU on opening day was what got, all right, people thinking USC was going to be good. Did end up being the case. But I think this is a viable potential option if UCLA wants to go after a number 2 quarterback in the portal. Now, I think it's more likely that they go after Salter, who they're reportedly in on. It's also a better attempt to go after somebody that high up with a lot of NIL probably commanded to him, and Darian Mensah. So I think those 2 are better, the 3-5 quarterbacks. So maybe Miller Moss is there. Then there's Matthew Sluka, who still has that year of eligibility, that super senior year that he spent all his career at Holy Cross, made his way to UNLV, and then after it's all said and done, left after Haj Malik Williams was pretty much as a super senior himself, took the role and ran with it for UNLV. So Sluka, 2 games against FBS teams, both Big 12 teams, averaged 287 yards per game, 25 points per game overall as an offense. And Sluka, though, is as the 6th best quarterback in the portal, ironically right under Justin Martin. But he's a 1-year stopgap that's proven he can run the ball well. But the thing is, for Sluka, though, is that he doesn't have an extended high percentage of completion percentage, right? He's never completed over more than 61% of his passes. He had 61% in a single season as his highest individual single season completion percentage performance. And if you really want to groan a little more, according to the 24/7 Sports national recruiting analyst, he is a comp to DJU. So if that gives you the ick, okay, although maybe a little bit better of a runner. And if you're only going to have a year of that and UCLA can utilize it a little bit better, maybe he's someone who could come in, challenge for the starting spot. But after all the drama that was caused at UNLV with the NIL and the commitment and money-wise, maybe you want to avoid it. It's something to look into as somebody who performed decently in the Mountain West. And considering UNLV lost their coach and he left UNLV, there's no quarterbacks left, UCLA might have a good chance to beat UNLV on the road this year in what could be an easier 2025 schedule than initially thought. Well, for the Bruins, maybe taking a DJU comp for a year would be interesting. But for now, maybe UCLA can look elsewhere. So Weigman, unique option, don't think so. Miller Moss, I think, could be an interesting fit, but probably would have a lot of commitment needed to him for this year. And UCLA has the depth chart built up for somebody to come in and start if they can grasp what should be a much simpler offense than Bieniemy's was. Or you go after a rushing option. You got your pocket passer in Moss. You've got your dual threat run first quarterback like Sluka. Or maybe you just go for the top guy on the list and just prove to everybody you can go get him just because you can if you just Sean Foster and restore faith in the UCLA NIL community and the fan base that, hey, we want to go after somebody in the portal, we're going to get him, even if it doesn't always make a lot of sense. So those are some of the options. I think first segment, UCLA, those are the two guys UCLA should go after at this moment. These are some guys in the top 6, 7 options the Bruins could. And maybe you go look at, some other guys like Fresno State's Mikey Keene, not really keen, pun intended, on that option potentially. But there are guys out there, and if UCLA just wants somebody to start for a year, plenty of options. Now, if they want to be good, these are the guys they should look at. And if they want to command respect from everybody in the Big Ten, maybe go out and take a look at them. Unless they got something ready to explode offensively already within the program, we'll dissect that later in a future episode. For now, we're going to flip the script to a UCLA basketball team that in some top 10, top 25 rankings, the Bruins have jumped from unranked to just outside the top 10 after their win over Oregon. Go head over to FanDuel. Check out America's #1 sportsbook. And if you're a new customer, it's never been better to get in on the action. If you're betting a $5 bet, you win it, you get $150 in bonus bets. So go take some knowledge, bring it on, and go bet the rest of the NFL regular season, maybe college basketball, the rest of college football, all on FanDuel. Because as a new customer, a $5 bet, your first one, you win it, get $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. Make every moment more. And hey, check it out with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. FanDuel.com to check it out. All right, so we went from wondering, hey, is UCLA legit this year with Mick Cronin and all these transfers, right? 6 transfers, 2 newcomers, one of the freshmen redshirting alongside Brandon Williams and Devin Williams. That's Eric Freeney. You have one transfer that hasn't played any significant time, even though I think Cronin wants to play him. Dominic Harris has not earned any significant playing time, nor has he made any big-time buckets. But with the 5 transfers, all the returners for UCLA, that means UCLA has had a 10-man lineup up and down the roster for the majority of the season. And heading into that Oregon game, with an Oregon team that had wins over San Diego State, over a then-ranked Texas A&M, beat a top 10 Alabama, and I'm stunned that Alabama has 2 losses, and Oregon, who beat them on a neutral court, could not be ranked higher than them. Either way, Oregon had a top 10 win on a neutral court during the Thanksgiving week in the Players Era Festival Tournament. They won that tournament unbeaten. They had a weird near loss at home to Portland. They're top 12, which meant UCLA, even though it was going to be a test, it's always a test between Cronin's Bruins and Dana Altman's Ducks. It was an even bigger challenge for both teams, right? It was the Ducks who have been flirting with disaster and near losses with some mid-game lulls, and they come back to win every game, it seems like, The Bruins, who have been dominating every non-conference opponent in their path since New Mexico. A 7-3 New Mexico team, by the way, that just lost to a pretty 4-5 New Mexico State team, even though a rivalry game's a little different when it's sold out in New Mexico. A little different. But the Bruins, the more I look at it, was it just a terrible mismatch on paper that UCLA came in and that early got their stuff handed to them by the Lobos? Possibly. But let's revisit what I was thinking about UCLA versus Oregon earlier last week. UCLA, after that win against Washington, needed to prove they would not get destroyed by the size of Nate Biddle with the lack of interior presence. They do have William Kyle. They do have Adai Mara, but Cronin doesn't trust them, nor are they proven themselves ready and soon enough to play 20 minutes to go toe-to-toe with Oregon's leading scorer and rebounder. Biddle responded with a game where he shot efficiently from 3, 2 of 3. He came into the game, I believe, 3 of 21, good for 14%, so he hit him efficiently, went 8 of 13 from the floor, double-double, had a few assists, didn't turn it over, and the Bruins got feasted on the post. Got out rebounded by 10, although I kept re-listening to Dana Altman's post-game press conference, and what he's talking about is the biggest part of the game was UCLA's offensive rebounding. A big one by Daly late where he got to put back to put the Bruins up by 4 or 6. And the sequence early in the second half when UCLA had 2 or 3 offensive rebounds on one possession. On one possession. And that really ate up like a minute of the clock to keep the game in UCLA's favor, where despite trailing at the break, they led for the majority of the second half in what was a back-and-forth exciting game for the Bruins. What I did like to see is UCLA has the team capable of shooting from 3 like they did in that game. Right? They're capable of shooting better than 50%, 12 threes, 23 attempts. You look at it and you're like, this team couldn't shoot. But they have the guys that can do it. They don't only going 2 for 7. It's, hey, stepping up, playing as a team, and knocking down the three-point shots, which they did. And most importantly, they did it on the road, which was UCLA's first true road game. Because they've been playing a lot of cupcakes at home. Away from home, they got smacked by New Mexico. And now, looking at all these games in college basketball, you've got Kansas, who is number 1. They've lost 2 in a week. Nobody's unbeaten left in pretty much the Power 4 side, except for like Florida, Tennessee, and probably somebody else that I'm forgetting at this moment. There's probably a mid-major or 2 still unbeaten, but everybody's got a weird, ugly loss in their resume. And UCLA has one of the stronger true road victories this early in the season. Because a lot of these teams have gone on the road and lost. And even Kentucky went on a road and played in a neutral site road game at Gonzaga and came back and beat them down 18, which hurts UCLA's big game implications against Gonzaga later. But UCLA proved that, hey, they're legit. They are a legit squad that when they play together, they can be good enough to be up by 10 against Oregon at any point. Now, they're not as strong defensively because they don't have the interior presence to rebound or stop an Oregon big man. And sometimes they get out of sorts on the wing, like when Jackson Shellstad came up and hit a wide open go-ahead 3 with just about 6 seconds left, 10 seconds left, actually. Well, the Bruins, all they had to do was play some better scramble defense. Oregon's like, all right, we'll walk into this wide open chance to win the game, knock it down with a Pac-12 for all freshman team member and Jackson Shellstad. Okay. Even the Bruins got outshot, out-rebounded. They played strong enough defense. They played very clean and crisp offensively and showed, hey, when they play well, they are very good and can live up to the extremely high expectations I've set for this team, which is a deep tournament run and immediate Big Ten champion contenders. Because there's nobody in the Big Ten. That's the thing about the Big Ten, right? You've always seen like a team win it like a Purdue, but then they lost in the first round, right, to Fairleigh Dickinson. And then all of a sudden they go to the championship game. You just never know. The Big Ten teams have had a history of underperforming, underachieving in the tournament, being overrated. And just kind of like we saw in the first year of Big Ten play for football, UCLA, decent, right? Remember, they played, most of their losses came against the top 4 teams, top 3 teams in Big Ten play. And then basketball-wise, it's like, all right, UCLA's got a much better roster. Teams that are losing a lot of big-time players, like Purdue losing Zach Edey, unfortunate for them because they could have really mauled through the Big Ten again and destroyed UCLA's big weakness, which is lack of post presence. But the more we see Mara improve, the more we see some athleticism and the growth of William Kyle, we all have to remember a good portion of these players still have eligibility after this year. All right. Many of them can come back. Now they're going to lose Stefanovic, they're going to lose Johnson, but most of these players can come back. So if UCLA can grow as a team next year, retain the roster for next year, and maybe even get better, the growth can only mean so much more for UCLA's current team and the future. Even though the portal is going to strip some of the talent away, man, oh man, UCLA, they came to play. And sometimes I think rankings are weirdly fickle. UCLA, all right, UCLA could not get any higher than the top 20 in the preseason rankings. They kept falling, and when they eventually were there, they were, 23rd, 20th, right? Lose to New Mexico, forgotten about. Beat a bunch of crappy teams. Next thing you know, they beat Oregon on the road after a mediocre showing by Washington, and now UCLA is like a 12th ranked team. I looked at the CBS Sports rankings. I looked at our own Locked On College Basketball rankings, UCLA's top 15. All right, just ahead of Oregon, who I think should be ahead of Alabama, who's in the top 10 with 2 losses, and Oregon beat them on a neutral court. But whatever. Stupid is as stupid does, right? All right. But UCLA, top 15. Like I thought they were the whole time. They just had to prove it with a big win. Now they have close to a week off. They go to Arizona. So not a lot of travel going from Eugene to LA and then to Phoenix to play the Arizona Wildcats in the home of the Suns at the Footprint Center. Huge game. Arizona's already lost a couple of big-time games early in the season. And looking at what could be the toss-up projections, I think Arizona's projected to win that game by a point. And if UCLA can go in there, play some good defense on the perimeter, maybe the Bruins can have another strong win away from home and continue to build the resume and go from another quick unranked team to a top 10, top-tier contender for a national crown in less than a week's time. Now, there's going to be a lot of teams with 3 to 4 or 5 losses, right? The portal has truly changed the game, I think, for the better in college basketball in terms of parity, which means more entertainment, more wild upsets, more entertaining games in the NCAA tournament and during March Madness. So UCLA, with all the talent they brought in, some semblance of returners, Cronin's extreme demand for better defense down the stretch and getting the most out of his players, he looked more disappointed in his win than Dana Altman looked in his loss. If you looked at the two guys being interviewed after the game, Mick Cronin probably super excited they got the win, more disappointed because he's like, I don't come here to win regular season games. I come here to win the tournament, and that wasn't good enough to win a tournament game. It's pretty much what Cronin was saying, beating a near top 10 team on the road where they led for the majority of the game, which only gives you more hope that this UCLA team can unlock a new level. And when they do, and when they showcase it, can maul through this non-conference, maul through the Big Ten conference games, and be one of the best teams in the country. Now, they haven't proven to do that consistently yet, nor have they done that against good competition in back-to-back games. But hopefully, they can showcase that against Arizona, and we'll see more Eric Daly improved defense, because then he could stay on the court for 30 minutes. We can see maybe some more action from either Kyle or Mara. And when we do, then UCLA won't have such a mismatch in the paint like they do right now. But it's projecting up for UCLA, which, was the expectation coming into the season. And now they just got to do that game in and game out. And if they go through this gauntlet in December, and we're skipping over the Prairie View A&M game. We're talking Gonzaga, North Carolina, and Arizona. If they go through that 2-1, 3-1 if you include Oregon, then UCLA is very much a top 10 contender. If they go 1-2, they're good, but they still got to grow a lot. Now, if they go through that all unbeaten, UCLA is going to be a top 5, top 3 team in the new year and have an extremely high target on their back beyond just the 4 letters, beyond the logo, beyond the blue and gold, beyond the history. The target going to grow immensely heading into Big Ten play if they win all those games. For now, we enjoy a banked-in buzzer-beating win, and the expectations are now starting to rise externally heading into UCLA's next game against Arizona. And with that, we're going to get our hands up. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked on UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.